Welcome to Human Metrics of MT Quality Evaluation. For today's session, you'll be muted on your side, but you're welcome to connect with each other in the chat and enter questions for our speakers in the Q&A. It is my pleasure and privilege to introduce our two speakers. First, Serge Gladkov, who graduated with honors from an Ivy League nuclear science college, and for more than 27 years has been engaged in the localization industry as a localization manager, and latterly as the co-founder and president of an LSP Low Risk Global, a boutique language service and technology firm where he leads his company's AI and ML research team. He 3 times on the GALA board, is the technical contact for the new ASTM standard, and also the US's ANSI expert ISO representative. It's also a pleasure to introduce Katerina Gasova, who joined the first localization team of Moravia IT in 1994, having previously specialized in technical and legal translation. In 2004, Katerina set the foundation for Moravia's Linguistic Services Department to develop and implement language quality management strategies. As a team leader, expert advisor, and mentor, Katerina has been supporting the worldwide team of in-house and in-country linguistic experts in linguistics, quality assurance, terminology management, machine quality assessment, and post-editing in theory and practice. So let me turn the mic over to our first speaker, Serge.
Hello. Thank you for joining this session. We are doing this session today together because while working on ASTM standards, we have discovered that both of us, me and Katerina, we have developed completely independently a similar approach. So we have decided to come up with this together, even though we are from completely different companies. So this presentation is given in the spirit of research cooperation. Now I will share the slide deck and let me do this and we'll get started. Right. So we are talking together about practical human metrics for MT equality. And prior to dwelling into this topic, I would like to give a bird's eye view on the landscape today, which is of course a trivia that MT is now used everywhere in a number of very different scenarios. And if we take at face value all the hype that is out there about MT, we can get a misconception that MT is already perfect and automatically resolves the translation problem. But in reality, there is no solution that fits all cases. And this is clearly because the results vary greatly. It is not a surprise for any AI scientists that to know that 80% of all AI projects fail. And then the neural machine translation is a numerology, a mechanism that requires fully fledged approach of data science. You need to constantly validate and monitor the model, the data, and the input. And MT quality is a function of several things, as MT system, a language pair, of course, data and content type. And as soon as your training corpus changes or model changes or input data goes out of domain, the quality deteriorates instantly. All this causes a number of important reasons to measure MT output quality. And I will need to speak fast. So I'm not going to read this slide, but you will be able to rewatch this presentation and listen to all those important reasons why do we need to measure machine translation quality. And of course, the complexity of the topic of the management of the measurement of translation quality calls for there are important reasons for that. Why is it so difficult to measure translation quality? Of course, we all know all these reasons in our industry, so this is also the list of the reasons why it is so difficult. Now, because of that, we have largely two camps of translation quality evaluation: automatic and manual. And automatic are listed on the left side here, and manual listed on the right side here. And of course, many of those names are already well known. There's lots of metrics. Um, and what is important to understand is that these are viewing the both of those camps are viewing the problem from completely different angle. And uh, Google research has demonstrated recently, not so recently, almost a year ago in April 2021, that there is no correlation between human judgment and automated metrics, or human metrics with mechanical Turk. This means that there is something seriously wrong with automated metrics. What is it? And of course, the fundamental problem of the automated quality measurement is that automated metrics measure linguistic similarity, while humans analyze the meaning and see much more errors. And here on this slide, they're shown two graphs, two graphs that show that while linguistic similarity shows a very, very good translation, people, the human evaluators, they see errors that the machine just doesn't see. And there's a joke of the comma, of course, that completely changes the meaning. So now we are going to the issue of when and how.
So, hello everyone. My pleasure to be with you today together with Serge. And I'd like to continue or take it from where Serge has just finished. Humans see errors that machine cannot recognize. And my stories will be exactly about this and about why humans are needed even for publishing an unedited machine translation then in the end. So today we live in a world when MT is available at our fingertips. And in such a world, it's vital to carefully consider how to efficiently get data needed for taking decisions on MT deployment. Deployment scenarios or decisions might relate to, for instance, which MT is the best, what actually the best means to us, or whether to post-edit the MT output, and if yes, then how much? What's the quality wanted? Our experience shows that there should always be a consensus and a clarity on the why, which can be interpreted in a simple question: what problem should MT help us address or resolve? And what are the success criteria for MT deployment scenario selected? So even though we clearly say yes to MT deployment, as MT helps with the enablement of content for the end users very clearly. At the same time, we have to be aware of various challenges that have to be addressed when MT is deployed, and also how to mitigate risks MT deployment brings in. I've picked two, and you may think of many more examples here from, say, MT quality assessments that I've been busy quite lately. And the examples are intended to document how tricky it is just to look into the decision-making process. So both examples are picked from content that client considers or analyzes or rates or names instructions. So for the client, MT clearly qualifies for such a content because it's instructions, isn't it? But then it's not standard instructions like instructions for a device use. It's instructions that should engage the user to make the best out of the app used. And one example shows here how to, what I cannot read it here right now, but with this, the sentence basically clearly shows that MT is more or less well usable for normal instructions in the normal sense of word. So but its tone of voice is absolutely unsuitable for engaging the user and giving tips to the user, which should be very, very personal and user-centric. And the example about Swig snitters just documents that MT translates but cannot recognize the emotional element of the language, because the translations I've analyzed in most of the cases translated sweet as sugary and not as charming. And this is exactly where the concern is and why humans are needed. So looking at the variety of use cases that have been brought up and are constantly being brought up by our clients, we see the three listed questions as the must-have diagnostic questions and tasks to be performed if we want to get reliable and actionable data on MT quality. How to assess MT suitability for the given use case, how to assess MT output quality from cost perspectives. Reasons for this might be varied. You'll see it in a bit, and which metric to use. Serge, can you move? So our first use case here is to demonstrate a situation where the client wants to use unedited MT to help their service desk people provide more insightful support. Professional linguists with a very solid product knowledge were asked to help client decide which engine is actually the best one for publishing the unedited MT, since the automatic metric provides very, very similar results. Client had their own kind of preferences, but in the end, the question was for the linguist. And even though the linguists decided or voted in general more for the engine C, in the end the decision went for engine A because the difference really was not so big, but it was a cheaper solution, and humans confirmed that both engine A and engine C are more or less comparable with regards to their usefulness for the end user to understand what the message or the information is about.
Next slide, then. Okay, the next slide is about the edit distance. Because there is no way to measure quality with automated metrics, with or without the reference translation, many are trying to base their decision on edit distance. And it does sound plausible that the amount of effort the translator is making somehow correlates to the number of keystrokes needed to fix a given sentence. Unfortunately, this assumption also fails. Here in the chart, you see the plot of edit distance versus quality score for every sentence in a document of more than 100 sentences. And would you say that the straight line approximates this scattering? And in my opinion, the straight red line is much more informative here because it says that fewer than 150 strokes will be enough to fix just about any sentence. The dispersion of sentences with high quality scores is really huge, and sentences with low quality scores also require low number of keystrokes to fix them. So the edit distance tells us basically nothing about translation quality. And that also correlates with the results of other experiments where which are finding that takes about the same time to fix the output of empty systems with a different quality scores, which is an interesting conclusion. So the on this slide we see the same slide as before, the two same charts, but the impression that we're having while we're looking at the MT output is that MT output looks great until you start reading it, but even less when you edit, because when you actually we had seen examples when people read and make their conclusion after glancing then reading, but the more you immerse yourself into the content, the more errors you see, like a farmer who is trying to plug a field, and the better as he goes along he sees more stones under the surface. That's an interesting phenomenon which says that really the taste of pudding is filled by eating it.
And yes, indeed, humans are needed, and humans have to help clients make the right decisions. Engines are here to produce tons of data, like we see in our use case number 2. A client, this use case tells the story about what happens if you have a lot of usage data, but those data don't give you sufficient insights into what's behind users' behavior. What is it what makes the user really so much annoyed that the user switches from a machine translated web page to English source, despite the fact that the user's English proficiency may be quite low? And this is exactly the question that was raised by one of the clients. We were tasked to help the client identify root causes of users' dissatisfaction. And based on the data from human evaluations, then the client is supposed to take further decisions on whether it makes sense to continue with publishing unedited web pages, or whether some sort of post editing might help. So we've developed a certain metric together with client according to client specific requirements. For instance, that the assessor should not cross-check the accuracy against the source website, but just look at the target language content from purely end user's perspective. We identify a couple of areas that are very relevant from user's perspective and decided to go with a grading scale that you can see displayed. And then we put some measurements behind to help express the collected kind of subjective assessments to revert it or convert it into tangible and measurable data. And this exercise has been included into clients' LQA program as yet another format that helps assess the quality of unedited MT from users' wish or need of usability and understanding. Third case can be named as who is the winner and who is the loser. A completely different client, a pre-selected couple of MT engines, again with their clear idea which one should be the winner because of financial budget behind. So the recommendation was to first ask human professional linguists, again familiar with the content, to just look at the empty outputs and do the assessment. Simply A is better than B, etc. Similarly to what was done in use case number 1. And as you can see, this exercise then gave us a clear winner, engine D, and a clear user, engine B. But what happens if then human is asked to do more? Serge, can you move to the next slide? So if then we ask the linguist to post-edit the segments from engine B and engine C, where B was a clear loser and C was a clear winner, you can see that it doesn't matter who was who. The linguist post-edited almost everything, and also the linguist was able to identify errors in almost all of the strings, and the number of segments with more than two or with two issues in the strings was comparable as well. So in general, human just assessment, just looking at the empty output and trying to subjectively assess which engine is better or which output feels better, gives completely different results and conclusions than if a linguist is asked to do the actual work, because the actual work is what then needs to be executed during the post-editing. And in this case, we see that the loser has become the winner, because the differences between engines B and D are very small. If we just look at the data from the post-editing exercise, and B was preferred by the client from financial perspectives.
There's also an interesting study from Karlov University that tells the same thing. Okay, so the new reality of neural MT is that MT engine is a black box. We can't formalize grammar in the neural model and can only apply various methods of data cleaning. We need to measure the quality not only in the narrow window of magnifying glass, but also need to evaluate much lower quality of raw MT. And we need to be able to determine the labor effort of post editing. There are new types of errors in empty output, and we need to be able to do TQE evaluation quickly. So because of that, we on our side, that's our metrics. That's not what Katerina has invented, but similar. We have we did two major tweaks. That is, we reduced the number of categories and introduced the new categories for specifically for MT, and we also introduced the geometrical scale of error weights. And because of that, we were able to create quality profiles for, let's say, here we see the comparison of two engines. One is the general stock engine, which is Google Translate, and another is custom trained engine, for which the content was out of domain. So we were able to quickly assess the comparatively the quality of those two engines, and that was very highly correlated to human judgment. So there are certain advantages of this metric. That is the lower number of well-defined categories, the segment score, which is based on exponential penalty point system. The immediate quality profile is built, which allows you to see right very soon, like in a matter of 2 hours, the approximate effort that is probably needed to bring this to higher quality. And the quality profile relates to human editing. And Katerina Gasova has invented her own metrics, which is similar. And the conclusions, please, Catherine.
So, as you have learned in this session, we believe that automated measurements are indicative, are useful, but don't provide actionable data. So, the final conclusion is that professional linguists and humans will always be needed there. So humans will be needed in the loop, just to, even if unedited MT is being published, to help assess the quality, to help understand user behavior. Also, if we want to get reliable data, we need to do the practical exercise. It's not sufficient enough to do just a very high level assessment, just look and read and then draw a conclusion, give an opinion. And obviously simple, actionable, easy to be used metrics that allow for harmonization with other LQA metrics will have to be elaborated and is the way how to go in the future. Errors in MT are often unpredictable and have also to be assessed from not only from a perspective of how annoying the errors are for the end user, for the say post editor or end user, but also from legal consequences. What if such a major error, critical error, is left unattended and unfixed, or just what it means to improve and retrain the engine to get rid of certain types of annoying errors.
Okay.
Go
Fantastic.
ahead.
We have just enough time for a few questions. If everyone would like to put your questions in the Q&A, we'll get to as many as we can. So we have one question, which is, when or how can recommendable materials be published on this topic?
First of all, that's a very good question. First of all, there is a paper already published on our metrics, which is available from archive.org for free. And we will also further do further harmonization work with MKM 2.0 working group, where we are already working to further improve, refine, and harmonize these metrics to MKM so that the industry has fully harmonized metrics for specifically measuring MT quality. But this paper is ready, and Katerina may also publish her metrics, but probably we will harmonize and then there will be materials published. But whoever is interested is welcome to take part in this research work as well.
Fascinating. Do you have some thoughts on that as well, Katerina?
I think that there is still, this is only a starting point. We all see how challenging it is to somehow maneuver the industry into a space where we would be able to get aligned on how to measure translation quality or whatever then translation quality or quality of the target content means. So it's even more challenging to look into how to easily get reliable data on MT quality. So as Serge indicated, we take it as a starting point and will be excited to welcome anyone who is interested to enhance the work that has been done so far.
Wonderful. Thank you, Serge. Thank you, Katerina, for your terrific presentation today. And I'm sure there'll be others looking to engage with you throughout the conference session. So thank you very much. And
Thank
we'll
you
all
for
head to the
listening.
next meeting now.
Thank you for listening.